Level 64 presents a Playboy and video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
You want a war you can't win? Are you telling me that 200 men against your boy is a no-win situation for us? You send that man, don't forget one thing. What? A good supply of body bags.
Hi there, welcome to another Lemon 64 play guide and review. In this week's show, we'll be checking out Ikari Warriors, developed by SNK and originally released in the arcades in 1986. Ikari Warriors was released in two different versions for the Commodore 64, the European version, and just before that they also released a US edition developed by Quicksilver Software Incorporated. So let's press fire and let's check that version out. Ikari Warriors, the US edition, is an NTSC game, and switching our emulator into NTSC mode, you can see the screen is slightly wider than the European version that we got, and it also contains, well, more fleshed out landscapes, as you can see, but unfortunately there is something wrong with this version. You can see we currently have 48 grenades in which we can throw at those enemies by pressing the spacebar, and we also get the helicopter from Ikari Warriors as well, and even the famous bridges as well, but in this game we can actually walk off those bridges and take a shortcut around that landscape, and that makes the job slightly easier. You can see the collision detection is slightly ropey, and sometimes you can wander straight through those enemies, waiting to press that fire button and waiting for a stream of bullets to emerge in order to kill them. The US edition features a great background theme, and that's one of the best features about this game. And if we just get rid of all these people hanging around, yes, we can pick up icons which reinforce our grenades, of which we now have 90, and by pressing that spacebar we can also climb into this, which is actually a tank, and the tanks in this game are pretty useless, one hit and they are history, and that's basically the tanks in Ikari Warriors, the US edition. I had no idea of the Ikari Warriors US edition before I even started this review, so this is a brand new game for me, and as you can see we are playing with infinite lives just to try and get further, just to show you a little more about this game. But let's move on from that to the actual European release that we all remember, or at least most of us play this, and that opens with a great introduction loading picture, and from here we can move on to the game itself. Ikari Warriors is a commando-like top-down shooter, so let's just press that fire button and let's just check out the European version with infinite lives in another unlimited lives challenge. going to do is to press F5 a number of times, and that will toggle through the music and the sound effects options so that we just have the sound effects playing in this game, because although that title music is okay, the loop is rather annoying after half an hour of playing this game. Unlike the US version, the collectibles in this game are all different colours. The white collectibles will give us more grenades, the black ones and the purple ones will give us more bullets for our gun. And you can see we can carry 99 grenades and 99 bullets at any given point. The red one that you just saw me pick up, I think that's extra bullet speed, and maybe that's extra manoeuvrability speed. And again, the purple ones are simply for more bullets, and the other one that you might find is the green one, which is the smart bomb, and picking up the green token is always appreciated when there are lots of enemies on the screen. We can also hold down that fire button and climb into a tank, and the tank's fuel meter will be depleting on the bottom. The red bar you can see is actually the fuel meter, but if we collect some collectibles, that actually adds to that fuel, the black ones in particular, and so we can simply run over these guys if we should choose to do so, and well, when we start flashing, that means we're out of fuel. When the tank flashes, you have to abandon it, otherwise it will blow up, and you can see mines dotted around which will blow us up just as well. And yes, this is an unlimited lives challenge. This is to see if we can complete this game by hook or by crook with unlimited lives, and let's see if we have the skills and the patience to manage to get through it all the way to the end. I don't quite know what the yellow collectibles are for, but it certainly adds to the score, and you can see the score is piling up as we move through this game. And if you are playing this game sensibly and properly, then you'll probably have to inch forwards and try to knock out each enemy in turn without taking on any damage, because of course one hit will kill us outright, and we only have 5 lives to be going on with. And somewhere around this point, or just after this point, is usually where I can get up to with normal lives on this game. Sometimes you can let the tank explode and that will take care of a few enemies for us. That's always very welcome. And of course sometimes it's best to leave the green ones until the screen has enemies upon there. But unfortunately I don't think it's possible to get rid of those mines, and sometimes legging it out of there to leave is a hit or miss affair. At 20,000 points we will gain an extra life, and as I say, just beyond this point, maybe up to the bridge is the point where I usually get up to, but I'm not trying to actually rush this game. I'm actually trying to play it properly and just try to show you how to actually play it. contact with those enemies is absolutely lethal and we cannot wander through those, and if we walk up the path just a little further and trigger a new batch of enemies, if we are standing by the side that they appear, we'll die, and if they appear from behind, we'll die if we are on the bottom of that screen. So to a certain extent we really have to know where the enemies appear and to get used to the patterns in order to have an easy time. Just like Who Dares Wins 1 and 2, which have a quirky character of their own, this game requires us to aim on target, and if those enemies wander around too much, they can simply wander into us. In this section, it is possible to walk along the water's edge, and that will make us relatively safe, but once again, we will have to avoid all the firepower coming from these automatic guns, and that means moving off and attacking it directly. Destroying that mine means that we can use this tank in the most opportune area, and sometimes it's possible, I think, to manoeuvre the tank around that landmine, but I find if you have the infinite lives, it's possible to just trigger that and have a great time with the tank. Just like the game Swiv, we will be moving through different territories, different towns and ghost towns and landscapes, and this is our first territory. This is actually a base, and we'll have to get through the base, just like you saw in the US version, but this time it's a little bit easier, and this time we have to just take on a few guys and walk straight in there, avoiding the mines, of course. Whilst we are in the tank, we are impervious to bullets, but getting rid of any grenade throwers is obviously a good idea, because they can blow up our tank before we've even started, and if we run over a mine, that will blow the tank up straight away. So what I like to do is to get rid of these guys, and yes, I really should be picking up that green token to get rid of those the easy way, but if we move ahead and trigger a few, well, maybe not, then we should hopefully have all that time with the tank, and we can get some great score simply by running these guys over and simply having a great time. Unlike the Who Dares Wins games, the player can die unfairly, and sometimes the player can die seemingly wandering on the edge, and that's because the enemies of course appear on the edge, and if they start firing before they appear, maybe their bullets appear before they do, and so we can seem to just die. And of course, with the collision detection being at a premium, you have to aim on target, and if you don't, well, sometimes you'll be wandering into firepower. The name Ikari is apparently Japanese for fury, and the name Ikari Warriors came from the Japanese title of Rambo First Blood Part 2, which was Ikari no Dashutsu, apparently, which means Rambo the Furious Escape. And there are various ways to pronounce this game, I've heard every way, and Ikari and Ikari, as in Ikari Dickory Dock, but apparently I Cry is the best way and the most authentic way to pronounce Ikari, and I will always call this Ikari Warriors. And that's another life at 50,000 points. This game was a deliberate Commando clone, and of course they took the Rambo First Blood Part 2 characters, and yes, you could play this in 2-player mode. Even on the Commodore 64 we can press F3 and that will give us that 2-player simultaneous action, but on the arcade we had a number of rotating joysticks which made that a little more unique, and on the 64 playing with the normal joystick isn't quite as good. The original hardware contained 3 Z80A chips. One of those was dedicated to the sound and the other 2 for the graphics, so 3 CPUs went into making this game. The names of the 2 lead characters has changed a number of times over the years, and some people may know the lead character, i.e. the one that we're playing at the moment, as Colonel Ralph, and some Europeans know this guy as Paul, and maybe he is Colonel Paul Ralph. The second player character is known as Second Lieutenant Clark, or Vince, or maybe even Vince Clark. But yes, those 2 characters did appear in various other games, including King of Fighters. So while I try to rush through the rest of this game, I will just say this game was coded by a certain Mr. John Twiddy, and John Twiddy is most famous perhaps for the Last Ninja series on the Commodore 64. The graphics were co-created by Paul Walker, who also drew the graphics for Storm Warrior for Elite in 1988, and moved on to Pang and Bart Simpson vs. the Space Mutants for the 64 in 1991. The graphics were also co-created by Rory Green of Bomb Jack and Commando fame. The music was created by Jason Brooke and Mark Cooksley, and Mark Cooksley having created most of the music for virtually all of the Elite Systems games, I feel that this one is a rather limp effort. On the 64 you can see we've managed to find a helicopter, and I'm not quite sure if that is there for decoration or we can actually climb aboard that, and it would be absolutely fantastic to be able to climb aboard that, and maybe I should have actually tried that. Never actually tried it, and I've never actually got to this point before without using infinite lives, and I've only ever completed this game once, and it took maybe 2 hours of creeping up even with infinite lives. But the display, of course, this is just to show you the game and just to show you the difficulty level later on, so I'll be simply rushing through the rest of it and show you how difficult that can be. The arcade original game was originally published by SNK in the United States and Trade West in the rest of the world. The general at the very end of the game is called General Kawasaki, and he was named that in the arcade version because he was named after the former president of SNK, a certain Ikari Kawasaki, and that was renamed for the European release to General Cook after the Trade West founder Leland Cook. On the NES version, he's still named Kawasaki, and they're actually fighting neo-Nazis on the NES version. I like the fact that just like Commando, there is a lot on offer and there's a big map, and it is no loading, there is no multi-loading in this thing, so we can carry on going forever, and the map is absolutely huge. I remember seeing the actual map in Zap, and it took a full page looping back on each other. But on the 64, you can see that we found Tank Alley, which is another shanty town, and if you don't pick up the tank straight away, then that will get blown up, and you along with it. Ikari Warriors is more like Ikari Warriors a little bit later on, because you may have noticed we've already lost maybe 20 or 30 lives already, and I cry at the difficulty level in this game. This is not like Commando that you can just complete in about 7 minutes and loop the game forever, and you can see some stuttering there. That's when too many enemies appear on the screen at once, and I've actually no idea how I'm supposed to get through this without legging it, and of course we leg it into some more action. So how is the casual player supposed to get far? I have no idea, and those enemies appearing from behind are something that I could very much do without. So the difficulty curve moves in stages, and some parts are shockingly easy and some parts are shockingly hard, and so long as the player attacks these levels and gets rid of the enemies, it is possible to get through it, and it's a great feeling of achievement to get this far in such a huge game. I think Ikari Warriors on the 64 is certainly value for money and certainly head and shoulders above the US edition. It has some great things going for it, and the controls are certainly much tighter. The bullet action is much tighter and the collision is better as well. Unfortunately, the action is packed and you'll have to learn how to wade in through those explosions in order to kill things, which may seem unfair by any other means. So I cry at the unfairness of this game and the sheer headbanging frustration that the player will find by the time they get to this stage. With sheer dedication, it is possible to get this far, and nothing is ever easy. Of course, you can spend however long you like trying to get rid of these enemies because there is no time limit in this game, and so you can spend all night long creeping these guys up and making sure that you defeat all this random firepower. But I don't have time for any of that. I just want to run in like Commando and maybe gung-ho like Rambo, and let's just blow a few of these guys up in quick succession and see if we can run through the rest. I love the landscape changes, and I find it staggering what they managed to cram into a single load. That's 64 kilobytes, and this game really does have a lot on offer. It's just that most players will find the difficulty curve is off-putting, and unfortunately most players won't seem to get this far without some kind of a cheat or without some kind of sheer dedication. And that's something which spoils this game and saves it from being a 10-minute blast. Unfortunately, most players will avoid this game and go for Who Dares Wins 2, which is infinitely more enjoyable. The base itself reminds me a little of LA SWAT, and that's another one of my favourite games that we've covered already on the Lemon shows. LA SWAT, again, previous to this, another top-down shooter, but this game has a lot more to offer and a lot more lives to waste as well. If you notice Jat on the floor, that's Jonathan A. Twiddy, and that's of course the coder of this game. And John Twiddy, well, it's not a bad game and it's not badly coded, it's just that there are lots of enemies on the screen and they really do pack a punch. You can see any one of these blasts can kill us, and so it's not a straight through walkover, and even Dogs of War on the Amiga was slightly easier than this. Taking a look at the scores, CMVG gave this the lowest score with 7 out of 10, your Commodore gave it 79%, Commodore Format gave it 80%, Commodore User gave it 80%, and Zap Magazine originally gave this 89%, and Commodore Force gave this an incredible 91%. The current Lemon 64 score is 79%, which gives this an average rating of 8 out of 10. On the 64, we've made it as far as the red carpet, and the red carpet is fairly easy. This marks the very end of the game, and at the end of this carpet, all there is the bad guy. So hopefully, if we've made it this far, it shouldn't be too hard. But again, the game throws in maybe 10-12 enemies there, which is impressive to see on the screen at any one time, but unfortunately not too impressive if you want to rush through it. And here is the bad guy himself, dressed up like a scout leader. We can simply blow him up and rescue Colonel Cook in this case, and receive a few thousand points as well. So whilst we continue to fight hard and bring, well, greater freedom to the people that we protect, unfortunately it's game over, so all we can do is enter our name on that high score table. And yes, it's arcade style, so we'll have to scroll through every letter until we find something that resembles our initials. So here we go, trying to find the A, and once again there should be a quick key to actually press enter, tap this on the keyboard, but unfortunately there isn't. So thank you once again for viewing a play guide and review to this game on the Commodore 64. It's very difficult, but I do have respect for this, and anyone who can complete this must be a master. So I hope to see you again in another play guide review sometime soon. Thank you.